Hey, good morning to the RealComm Live community. I'm Ryan Sen, Vice President of Business Development at Distech Controls. Pleasure to be here. It's been a great couple of days at IBCon 2025, and this year's theme is Return on Innovation. And speaking of innovation, we've got two individuals who are no strangers to innovation. I'd like to introduce Sabine Lam, Senior Product Director for Atrius, and Eugene Mazo, who is General Manager for the Atrius portfolio. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Excited to be here.
So, Eugene, I want to start with you, and I want you to tell us in your own words what the definition of edge with cloud architecture is, which we see as a recurring theme at the show here this year.
Yeah, just to detail a little bit, there's a very minor change that we made to a consistent narrative that we've heard before, edge to cloud. We changed the to the with because I think it's an important distinction. As you think about what the edge is responsible for and doing processing of the data that's generated as close as possible to the device that's actually generating it, doing processing, taking action on it, etc. And then you layer in the cloud. What you would typically do is you would add a cloud on top of that system, and you have now two separate systems, an edge system and then a cloud system. Now they interact, but they aren't managed together in unison. What we are intending when we say edge with cloud is that the edge and the cloud sort of, it's a hybrid system, and it becomes a system, one system that works in unison, where you have the edge doing the things that you expect the edge to do, processing the data as close as possible to the source, and then you have the cloud doing the sort of the cloud things that you would expect with scale and much more intense processing.
Yeah. So just to expand on the edge piece in a bit more detail, standardizing on Distech Controls hardware at the edge, how does that benefit commercial property owners and developers?
All of the hardware that we manufacture at Distech right now is just natively and by design cloud enabled. So when a customer is ready to actually utilize the whole edge with cloud concept, there's no additional work that needs to be done from their side. It's just there.
Great. Well, shifting gears to Sabine. Sabine, now that we've got easy access to all of this rich data from the edge, what's really needed to facilitate its use in the cloud?
So once the edge data is sent to the cloud, now we need to understand what is it, what it is used for, and how it can provide insight. So the first step is to normalize and contextualize that data in a centralized location. So Atrius Data Lab is the independent data layer for our solution and really enable all those applications that can run on top afterwards. But it's a really centralized location for all your data across the portfolio, across buildings, in a way that is technology agnostic.
Okay. Well, Sabine, sticking with you, how does Atrius Data Lab actually interoperate with the rest of the Atrius portfolio?
So we already started talking about the edge. Atrius has multiple edge devices around lighting, Distech, QSC. And then once you have that data all centralized, it's really enabling the building to meet that goal of being safer, smarter, greener, and enabling those applications such as Atrius facilities and energy and sustainability type of application.
All right, well, let me peel back the onion a bit more on Atrius facilities. Eugene, what are the core components of Atrius facilities?
Yeah, there's three main components there. We have Atrius Organize, which lets you do endpoint management, manage the devices that are deployed on-prem, update their firmware, update their security policies, etc. Then we have Operate, which is really intended for facility operators to be able to understand the state of their portfolio and manage their portfolios, things such as set points, things such as schedules, alarms, things like that. And then there's an Optimize module, which is really all about energy savings and automating a lot of the optimization of systems within the buildings.
Sounds exciting and game-changing. Can you actually walk us through a real-world use case that kind of highlights this edge with cloud architecture and the benefits for property developers?
Yeah, I think the most common one that you'll hear is it's probably the obvious one where you have because you have a whole lot more data that's contextualized across a wider set of buildings within your portfolio, you're able to infer a lot more information and have a lot more intelligence on more sophisticated and better optimization sequences and optimizations that you can make to the systems. But the one that I think doesn't get talked about enough is, as I mentioned, sort of this endpoint management capability. the ability to actually make sure that from a cybersecurity perspective, your firmware is always current. You can update everything that's in your infrastructure easily at one click of a button. You need to make sure you have the right security policies. You need to make sure you have the most current firmware that is dealing with the most current security threats.
To add on to this, I think that is something that is not discussed enough, where we talk a lot about what it's enabling and the nice dashboard and nice type of application we can run on it. But really this is the core problem, is to make sure that this data first is sent and trusted and consistent before we can really enable all those
Sure. So Sabine, just on that particular thread, when it pertains to security, scalability, data ownership, how do you ensure that data security from edge to cloud?
So our edge devices are cloud enabled with Azure IoT Hub. So by default, it will be secure right out of the box. It's installed with state-of-the-art solutions, and we're getting cybersecurity with the help of Azure. The other part is we're also spending a lot of time on authentication and data access, so making sure that we control who's going to have access to what part of the data, depending on their role, and then we're enabling the building owner to make that decision and really control who's going to get what.
So, Eugene, let me ask you the burning question on everyone's mind. Who owns the data at the end?
The end user. It's always the end user. In fact, we've gone so far as to say that it's, even for us to get access or see the data, the end user has to grant that access to us. We don't even see all of the data.
Brilliant. Let's talk about the roadmap. So what's next for Edge with Cloud BMS platforms? Are AI, digital twins, other emerging technologies influencing the roadmap?
We spent the past 5-6 years figuring out what this horizontal stack should look like. We all struggle through the complexity of it. AI is going to eliminate all that and really help us automate every single aspect of the tech stack. So I think I could see AI being used at every single level of our development process, and then also leverage for optimizing and solving any one problem for our stakeholder.
Eugene, any thoughts on your side?
Yeah, I would agree. I think AI is a really big opportunity. I think we have to be careful about how it's implemented. This is very typical in any industry, really, in any technology industry. There's this new hype that comes out. Everybody jumps on board and tries to implement one way or another. And a lot of times you actually end up disproving the fact that that technology can work. I personally think that AI can be a significant benefit to our industry, actually to all industries, but it has to be applied right. It's not a tool that solves all problems.
Sure. Outside of AI, what should building owners, operators kind of look for in the next 2 to 3 years coming from our portfolio?
I think, so from our perspective, we want to make sure that the systems that are in the buildings become, first of all, less complex, but more functional, so that they're easier to maintain and easier to deploy. You basically want, and you say this all the time, right, Ryan, but you want an easy button. You want an easy button for everything, for how the system gets deployed, for how the system actually operates the buildings. And you really want just a really intelligent assistant to the facility manager and operator of the building.
Yeah, a plus one to that, I think the complexity, so everything will become easier, adoption will be simpler, less threatening. Every time we talk about it in such complex terms that the building's owner run away and can't take the time to really assimilate the information. So we need to simplify the message, put the complexity behind the curtain and just let it go and make it really simple for them to adopt.
And just to come back to that, I want to make sure that we land this point, because we don't talk about this enough. We don't talk about enough about security. We don't talk enough about very easy endpoint management, right? And IT industry has this solved, right? In IT, you're doing endpoint management all day long. You're keeping your devices current. You're constantly updating. There's policies. There's standards around it. I think this is one of the things that we really need to get very comfortable with in our industry, is just to get to that same level of fidelity and that same level of ability to do endpoint management and make sure that you're managing the devices to the latest standards.
Perfect, I love it. Well, hey, we're at time, so I appreciate both of you spending some time with me today. It's a great look at how Acuity is enabling the next generation of smart connected buildings. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.